What is going on, everyone? Chris with Journals, Comics, and Pop Culture. It is Friday, and this is Friday Night Live. I already see some awesome folks. Some people that I haven't seen in a long time, which is really good as well. Before I say what's up to some of you guys, I just want to say appreciate all for being here. Those watching on the rewind, we have an awesome show discussing none other than CGC. Always things to talk about when it comes to CGC. We got a few specific points of discussion tonight that we're going to cover, and then we're going to circle it all in and kind of sum it all up in terms of looking at CGC's position in the industry right now, in the comic book world and comic book industry, and if the perception still stands that CGC is this big bad entity, or is that just us getting in our feelings? All right. And I want to hear what everyone else has to say tonight too, of course, as always. But let's take a few minutes to say what's up to some people and give some channel updates. GT Key, what's going on? Gary Raising Elm stopped by and said what's up. Appreciate you, Raising Elm, but you are hanging out with the fam tonight, so thank you. Obi-Wan Shinobi, what's going on? Peter, I don't know if you were here for the last live, Peter, but you won one of the Patreon contest giveaways. So I have a slab that has been long overdue to get to you too. So we got to talk. All right. Let's see who else we got. Vinny, I have not seen you in a chat in a while. Vinny, it's good to see you. Thanks for popping in. Shadow Rat. Swag. CGC is the devil. Just kidding. Swag. Yeah, I was going to, guys, we will be talking about, I was going to bring up a very good point that Swaggle brought up in a video he did like towards the end of last week that we're going to add to this discussion. So if you haven't checked out that video, go check it out. It was extremely well done. Yeah. Oh, the Frank Miller video that's why I did was awesome too. Absolutely, man. All right, guys. First up, let's take a couple minutes, let some more folks get in real quick. As you know, I still want to let people know that just due to my personal life, the channel wasn't the same over the last few months. And to make that story short, I'm getting back to doing what I do. So expect to see more and more new videos and new content during the weeks as the weeks continue to pass by. Also, I'm getting back into doing Comic Book Canon as much as I can. I will be live on the show this Sunday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. So I hope to see all of you guys there as well. Let's see. For those that are interested in comics for sale, I don't know. Can you see any of the stacks of comics? I've been going through, my 25,000 comic book personal collection. I've only gone through like maybe 1/5 of it at this point, maybe, and pulled at least a few hundred books out that I'm going to be putting up for sale, as well as my for sale inventory. I've been staying away from Whatnot. I'm going to be doing either a video or a live stream about that. Again, not being anti Whatnot, but there's a lot of things to talk about because I was on a hiatus. I couldn't get to my Whatnot sales, and that impacted me in a negative way. And I'm going to discuss that. Maybe we'll do that for another Friday Night Live. Tony's here. What's going on, Tony? Brendan, what's up, Brendan? And Asher. Thank you. So look out for that. But guys, I actually have, let me just show you guys real quick before we get into the discussion tonight. I got this box right here. I've been going through my books. I got a lot of stuff, man. Some Silver Age DC, a lot of high grade stuff. I got a Moon Knight #1, some early Marvel Silver Age reprints, high grade Bronze Age keys, some Bronze Age Thor, Submariner. Like I said, most of it high grade stuff. Some Bronze Spider-Man, Bronze Uncanny, near mint copy. I got a lot of good stuff coming up. Signed books. So all of these, I got some near mint minus to near mint copies of some Amazing Adventures number 8, 7. I got some more in here too. A lot of good stuff. Some keys, of course. Most of this stuff is going to be posted as a claim sale on my Instagram. Like I said, I'm moving away from Whatnot. So I might do actually a claim sale on Instagram on Sunday, maybe. But I also randomly post books up for sale on my Instagram. If there's anything that you guys are ever inquiring about, you can always hit me up on Instagram, send me a DM, or you can always email me at captainjournocomics at gmail.com. All right. A lot more stuff coming. It's just taking me time to get it all organized. So that's that, man. Will I sell on Whatnot again? I'm not saying I'm not. One thing I might do that's good for Whatnot right now for me is bargain sales, like where I could just run through some stuff at $1 to $2 starting bids. So if you're not following me on Whatnot, still do so. The link's below. I could still make some collectors happy with doing some bargain sales there. So that's the plan for the future. Comic Book Canon on Sunday again. And like I said, look out for more new content on the channel and more live shows as well. But with that being said, guys, we got a topic to discuss tonight. And that is CGC. So 3 main talking points. All right. I already did a live stream a couple weeks back about the price increases. We're going to talk about that a little bit tonight. And then we are going to talk about this current statement that they made about mechanical errors and, what that means in terms of their business practice and what it means for collectors and consumers. And then also we're going to talk about a little bit about the priority and the evolution of CGC and the grading industry, because I've been saying this for a long time about the grading industry still being in its infancy, and that this idea of it being a monopoly isn't quite what it seems. And in that segment, I am going to bring up something that Swaggle said in one of his videos that was very, very poignant to the topic at hand when it comes to signature series signings and what that means for CGC moving forward. So let's start by claim sales are better than bidding. Yeah, Peter. Yeah, I hear you. And also on claim sales, some sellers like me would probably be open to taking best offers. Anyways, all right. Let's go right into talking about this mechanical error issue, or basically statement that they sent out to the public just a couple days ago now. We are going to bring this up on screen and we're going to read through this. All right. So, and again, personally, before I even go into this, I'm going to tell you that I think there's 2 sides to this that we can look at. And I want to hear, after I read this, I want to hear your guys' thoughts as well. And then I'm going to give you my opinion. So, and I'm not going to read all this, but we're going to just start here. Mechanical errors in return policy. CGC accepts returns in certain instances, such as when the CGC submitter receives a collectible back with a typographical error on the label, obviously the error being incorrect, like a Marvel Comics comic saying DC Comics, or it, saying having a misspelling or any type of typo. That's obvious, right? Let's see. They also go on to say, or obvious scratch on the outside of the holder. These returns are called mechanical errors on the CGC online submission form. I like how in their opening statement they say, returns are accepted for typographical errors and an obvious scratch. I like that's how they go, not like typographical errors and like physical damage. Like they could have led with that. Like, we accept returns for physical damage, such as a scratch or a completely shattered case with like pieces still rattling around inside the case. No, that's not how they led. Okay, moving on. Many of the mechanical error submissions that are received by CGC do not qualify because they have issues caused by improper packaging or packing, storage, or handling, such as drops, have naturally occurring Newton rings, or have label information that was correct. Okay, so basically what they're saying is, look, once the slab reaches you, there's nothing we could do about it. Now, I don't know, and maybe some people in the chat here, from my experience, they are pretty open with, if you open up a box from UPS or USPS and the case is cracked, they're not going to sit there and say the case is damaged. Or the postal service or the delivery service is at fault, because I do believe their insurance, or the way that liability is laid out, is that the sender is responsible for that product until it is in the hands of the receiver. So, but who's to say that once you receive that, you're not like trying to like hang it on a wall and you're trying to set it on a nail and it falls and the case cracks. All right. So, because of this, they state here, effective May 16th, all mechanical error submissions, regardless of error, must be returned to CGC within 14 days of the submitter's receipt of the collectible. Now, this is a little bit of a question mark here, too. Like, what is the receipt of being received? And what I would consider receipt would be tracking, the tracking number stating that the item was delivered and received by the receiver. That's the only documentation that I can think of that would be proof of receipt, right? Obviously, CGC does not clarify that. But moving on. So we're looking at a 14-day window. In addition, returns can only come from the original submitter of the collectible. All right. And they do say, if you're going through a third party, a CGC authorized dealer or facilitator, contact them, or you can even contact us and we'll work it out. I like that. I actually like that. Valid mechanical error submissions are not charged shipping, insurance, or handling fees if the return is made within the 14 days of the submitter's receipt of the collectible. And again, I like that. I mean, they will cover everything. If CGC determines that a mechanical error submission is within its quality acceptance criteria, however, the submission will be returned in its original holder and round-trip shipping fees will be charged to the submitter. Now, this could be a big question mark. All right, mechanical errors represent a very small and declining, I love this, a very small and declining percentage of overall submissions due to CGC's efforts to improve quality control through enhanced training and processes to better prevent or catch mistakes. These efforts have not only improved quality control, but also turnaround times, which are at the fastest speeds in years. That's accurate. CGC continues to work diligently to both reduce the occurrence of mechanical errors and maintain fast turnaround times. All right, I'm going to leave it there, guys. And we're going to go back and we're going to look at pinpoints out of here. Let me just say this. It seems sensible. How has it changed? Holy Harlot. Good to see you here tonight, by the way. I don't know how it's changed. I'm assuming there might not have been the 14-day stipulation before. And that's one thing that I don't know. If anybody in the chat knows what is new about this, please let us know. So here's my thing. Looking at this, like Holy Harlot said here, it seems sensible. It absolutely seems sensible to me. I mean, overall, this is a business handling business. All right. You got a 14-day period. If you receive the product and you open it up and you don't thoroughly examine the labels, the case, the book, and everything in a matter of 14 days, something's wrong with you. Now, I did see people in comments and forums saying, oh, well, what if I'm on vacation or something? Now, I understand that, but that's a very rare occurrence. And if you are planning a vacation and planning to send books out to CGC, I would make sure that you don't, schedule it in a way to where that you're going to be home to at least have a week where you can examine those books, right? So, I at surface value, I see nothing wrong with this. I understand their treatment of Newton rings. I'm not going to argue about that or spend any energy arguing about that. And they're going out of their way to say, we're going to cover everything. We're going to insure the book, ship it back to us. We're paying for shipping. We're going to insure the book with no cost to you, and we're going to return the book to you at no cost to you. There's no cost out of your pocket. And I recently had a situation where I had to deal with customer service and they took care of me when they didn't need to. And even though I have my issues with CGC, I always say this, as of this point in time, at this point in my life, I have never had a bad experience. Actually, you know what? Not that this was necessarily a bad experience. I did have somebody give me false information, which ended up leading to an issue. But when I called them back and told them, they took care of the issue. That was the only issue that I've ever had with CGC customer service. CGC customer service has always been solid. In my experience, that's only me, right? And like Holy Harlot says here, the idea of having the facilitator initiate the return is cool if they were the ones that the item was shipped to. Otherwise, it's crap. And I agree there as well. And they also say, look, if you use the facilitator, you could still contact us. Either handle it through the facilitator or actually contact us. And now they didn't leave any more details to what that looks like. But hey, to me, that sounds like they're trying to go above and beyond to take care of you. Now, I don't know where they came up with the 14-day thing. Maybe like as a consumer, maybe a 21-day time period would allow me to sit a little more comfortable. But you got to take into consider this, folks. And this is where you're looking at it from both sides. If you're upset about this in any way, just the time frame, it is very easy, especially if it's a hot book or a big key. A submitter can receive their books back from CGC, put it up on eBay the day that they receive it back, sell that book the next day, and get it shipped out to that buyer in a matter of a couple days, priority shipping. And within 4 days, it could be in the hands of a new customer or of a new individual. All right. Now, say something happened within that time frame where it got damaged in that shipping process, or the submitter that submitted it to CGC got it, shipped it to a buyer and shipped it like crap, and it was cracked. That is not, if I'm CGC, that's not my responsibility whatsoever at all. Now, look at it like this, though. Look at it like this. Say I am the submitter and I get my books back, and it's been a few days since I received them back, and I am trying to like hang them on my wall, and one of them falls and cracks. I still have the ability, because it's within the 14-day time period, I still have the ability to contact CGC and say, hey, I received these books and there was a crack in this. And they would let you ship it out to them. Now, this is where the statement of you could send it out to us, but if it fails our, what do they say right here? If CGC determines that the mechanical error submission is within its quality acceptance criteria, however, the submission will be returned to its original holder and round trip fees will be charged to the submitter if they find something wrong with it. Now, this can be, again, I understand CGC doing this, because what if they have the ability to say, oh, somebody tried to tamper with this case and we can prove that, or we know that? I don't know. So look, if you're willing to take your chance, if you know you dropped the slab within that 14 days and you want to try to send it back saying it was damaged when you got it, go ahead, take that chance. They might work with you and re-slab it for you. Or, I don't know, they might be like psychic or have forensic materials that say, oh, we could tell by the pressure of the drop that it was already outside of the box. Like, who knows? They're going to say, you're responsible. Now I got to send it back to you and charge you round trip fees. I don't know. 14 days seems totally fair, though I know there are a lot of guys like Automatic Comics that don't open their boxes for weeks because they have so many. Swag, you know what? And maybe CGC. Okay, remember when CGC said, we reached out to prominent members of the community when they were like taking important information off of the labels? Remember that? And we could never figure out who these prominent members of the community were. What if CGC actually reaches out to prominent members of the community again and says, what if they make an accept? What if there is a differentiation in terms with anybody that has like a reseller account? Because they do get so many shipments, or they are maybe some LCSs or some resellers, they could be getting back thousands of books a week from dozens of different submissions. And maybe it does take more than 14 days. So maybe that's something that could be discussed from prominent members of the community or individuals that are resellers or retailers, and they can communicate with CGC and say, look, if we do this much, if our account does this much volume with you, CGC, can we have a different stipulated time frame? I think that would be absolutely fair. I think it would be absolutely fair to do that, because Swag makes a very great point. I'd like to see how CBCS counters this. Yeah, me too. Tony Trombetta says EGS is also 14 days. So, yeah, very reasonable. Again, guys, I know it seems like such a short amount of time. But again, if you're doing everything right outside of the circumstances that Swag brought up, I think you could do a lot in that 14 days, including damage your own product and still try to piggyback their policy and trying to get a free pass, hoping that they'll fix the issue for you, right? If it is physical damage. So overall, guys, is CGC the big bad when it comes to this policy? And again, I don't know what's changed from before, but with the way that they've outlined the details, I don't think that this is bad at all. I think it protects CGC as well. The only thing that I kind of snickered at was their comment about the minimizing, it's getting less and less, these quality control errors. Now, I'm not snickering because I don't believe that they are using resources to make that happen, because I think they are. And this is where people that are kind of like anti-CGC or anti-grading in general, they're always going to paint them bad no matter what. It would be, I understand big money blinds sometimes. And even the greatest nations fall. And you can say this with companies. Look at what Apple did when they got rid of Steve Jobs and they brought in, what was it, the ex-CEO of Pepsi, or was it Coca-Cola? I forget. I think it was Pepsi. But I don't remember off the top of my head. And they basically almost went bankrupt, and they had to bring Steve Jobs back in, and the rest is history. So, no one is too big for making mistakes. Nobody is too big to fail. Nobody is too big to have big heads. But you got to understand the CGC is a business, and a business knows that we can only do so much without listening to the consumer or trying to improve, whether it's the product or the service that we're delivering. I do believe CGC knows certain things that they need to do to improve their business to make sure they are maximizing revenues. And they knew the quality control and turnaround times were big on that. I had my doubts. It took them a while, but they started turning things around, especially with turnaround times. But with quality control, I'm snickering at it a little bit, because for me, from what I'm seeing a lot of a specific issue, and that's whole submissions or submissions having damaged cases more and more right now. So I don't know what is sparking this to be the case, or if it's a matter of perception, because of course we don't see everything that goes on. We don't sit here and have a ratio of how many books they're grading and sending back out and how many are becoming damaged. So we actually don't know. Maybe the ratio is shrinking, but it is still a huge problem. So I feel that this can look and be perceived as bad timing, because, CGC now sees so many quality control issues, and instead of dealing with it, they're coming down our throats saying, well, you know what, 14 days or else, and that's it. But again, I think it's the fact that CGC is protecting themselves as a business while at the same time understanding that they are not perfect. There are still issues, and they're doing their best to gather their resources to improve. I believe wholeheartedly that CGC wants to improve, because improving means more money. And it's that simple. Now, there's a little bit of asterisk here, and we're going to move on to the price increases. And I'm not going to talk about this for long. We're going to talk about it briefly. Making money and improving to make money means something only when we as consumers speak with our dollars. This is why they can look at quality control and say it is imperative. It is imperative that we utilize our resources to improve. But now, on the other hand, increase in fees and prices. You all as consumers may look at this as doing the opposite of improving, because it's turning you away because, oh man, I can't afford this, or it's costed too much. I'm done. I can go to CBCS and do it for cheaper. I can go to EGS and get it for cheaper, and you can. But I said this when I did this stream. Raising their prices is improvement for them, and it overall, it has nothing to do with inflation. Inflation is too often used as an excuse. And the main, I've said this before and I'll say it again, the main way that you can argue against the inflation argument is by looking at like quarterly revenue and profits for companies. If companies are raising their prices on their consumers and they are hitting, record high profits, and their profit margins continue to increase, and their CEO's salary continues to increase, it has nothing to do with inflation. It has to do with more of a market equilibrium. It has to do more with supply and demand, in the simple fact that they're raising their prices because they can. And you talk about how on the, if you're looking at an XY axis and what is a fair market value of what they can charge without demand going down. CGC is they have their team putting all this stuff through the algorithms. And they know that they can raise their price $2 for moderns, $5 for this, or at least they're putting it in the algorithms and it's spitting it back out saying, we can raise the prices this much and it's not going to decrease our demand. And it's going to continue to increase our revenue. And the only reason that they know they can do that is because you all that continue to use CGC and send books to CGC and our CGC consumers, you're going to keep doing it. You're going to keep doing it. And as long as you keep doing it, they're going to keep raising prices. And I did say before, I believe the price increases with CGC are going to be an annual thing. I believe we are going to see price increases every single year. I do. I'm going to take a quick break and read some comments here. Holy Harlot says, oh shoot, where did it go? It's not about their customer service being an issue. It's that so many of us need their customer service, meaning like there's these issues and we need to keep utilizing their customer service. I hear you, Holy Harlot. That absolutely makes sense. I'm going back and forth about my membership. OB1, me too. Absolutely. Brandon, what does Brandon say? Oftentimes decisions meant to protect a business like CGC get knee-jerk negative responses, even if it's not going to have a negative impact, because collectors and customers tend to see everything from one point of view. Absolutely. Nothing wrong with CGC using policies that minimize hassles for them, as long as they don't, in the same way, mistreat customers. And I think that's another thing that consumers don't understand. When a business protects itself in the right way, and creates a system that they can navigate through more efficiently, it's going to make the service and the product better for the consumer. It is, and that's just a fact of the matter. Yeah, really bad timing. Let's see. Yeah, it's too much money to do a $10 book. I hear you. I'm very selective. I mean, I don't send that many books out to CGC anyways, and I'm very, very selective. How do you feel about CGC no longer being in the collectible preservation market, going into market making? Okay, this is run me through. Thank you. This is very much what Swag Oz was talking about. I don't know if Swag is still here, but Swag, if you are still here and you want to drop the link to that video in the comments, please feel free to do so. I love what Swag does, man, and he's just such a good guy. And his what he's done with his channel and the perspective that he brings in looking at these issues is like none other. And I'm gonna run me through. I'm gonna talk about this. All these signings going on like 30 plus in the last month or so. I'm gonna talk about that in a minute, but I want to sum up what I was saying about purchasing power. Yeah. Okay, so real quick though, going back to purchasing power, we got to remember, guys, again, we have to speak with our dollars. You know, and I said this before and I'll say it real quick here. If you have been a customer of CGC, or maybe you aren't and you want to send some books out to get graded, right? And you aren't sure about CGC because you don't like their price increases. You don't like their quality control. Don't be shy to spend money elsewhere because this isn't a monopoly even at this stage. CBCS is out there and most of their tiers are cheaper, most of them, than CGC. EGS is out there and they have a proprietary case that, in my humble opinion, is on par with the big two. You don't need custom labels if custom labels aren't for you. They have a standard blue label. They have a standard yellow label for signature series. And they're much more transparent about their grading. So many people that complain about CGC will never give another company, especially a company like EGS, a chance. And that's where it becomes problematic. And that's why CGC can sit here and laugh in your face. Spend $25 and send one book to EGS. Just one. If you're spending a couple $100, a couple $1,000 a year to CGC, spend $25 and send a book to EGS. Or if you never send a book to CBCS, spend the similar amount and send one to them. Or if you use CBCS and you feel the same way about them, send a book to EGS. Or if you never send a book to CGC, play your options, especially if you're spending X amount of money every year or every however many months. It won't hurt your pocketbook. And you'll have a first-hand experience, and then you could go back into the market as a more educated consumer on how to spend your money. And then if we really start liking the services and the products that other companies are making, we take the power back. We take the power back. And then it leaves a big company like CGC sitting saying, well, shoot, now we really do got to listen to the consumers. McDonald's started doing vegan or vegetarian options because they started listening to consumers. And although they're not the majority of their customer base, they're a large enough percentage of their customer base. Right? I love my raw books. It's just most of them are 60 plus years old now. Keep playing some cover tunes. Thanks for jumping in. I agree there's concern with all the house signings. Okay, yeah, okay. So let's go into this topic of discussion tonight, guys. Okay, so actually, let me sum up here. When it comes to CGC being this big, bad monster, is their price changing in their raising of the prices however many times, 3 times in the last 2 years? I think it's going to become annually. Does that make CGC a big bad monster? I'm going to say no. Why? Because it's your fault. Not you specifically here. any one of you specifically, you in terms of the consumer continuing to give money to CGC and not wanting to speak with your dollars. It doesn't make them a monster. Any company is in business to make money and maximize profit, period. Hopefully they continue to do it ethically, but raising their prices, knowing that the consumer is not going anywhere and is willing to pay more, that's not unethical. Sorry, it's not. It's just business. All right, let's go. Joseph, what's going on, Joseph? Fraggle Car, what's going on? I sent stuff to CGC and CBCS at the same time. My CGC stuff came back within a week. At CBCS was over a month. If I wanted it that fast through CBCS, it would have cost more. So price is contextual. It is if you're factoring in wait time. For me, waiting 1 week or waiting a month for my books doesn't mean anything. I would gladly pay a cheaper dollar amount or go with somebody that I trust in terms of their product more, even if I had to wait more. Like, I don't need to fast track my stuff. I will gladly not pay $15 or whatever to fast track my stuff. I'm not just going to pay the cheaper price, though. I'm going to take into consideration, do I value their service? Do I value their product? Do I like their aesthetics? Do I like their case? Do I trust their grading? Right? All of those things matter, and all of those things are contextual to the individual. I saw a video about the bad quality control, Deucin and Venom Lethal Protector, and a Wolverine number 8, and the labels were swapped. Yeah, I mean, look, and I'm going to say this too, guys. No one is without flaw. No company is without flaw. But and what really matters is how they handle it. It's how they handle it. But I'm going to be with you guys right here. In my humble opinion, and according to what we know, now we know the CGC isn't completely transparent about what they do. But if this whole thing of like 3 people looking at the book and it going through so many different hands, there should be no reason that a book should be upside down in a case. Ever. There's no reason that a label should be swapped on the wrong book. Ever, in my humble opinion. Okay, a little piece of plastic being inside of the case, that can happen. You know, these cases are mass produced and that can happen. A label having a misprint, a misspelled word, that can happen. As an English buff and as somebody who teaches speech and language, I understand how the mind works when we look at things. Sometimes even editors can miss grammatical errors. It can happen. All right. But I do believe that yeah, a label should never be swapped and a book should never be upside down or backwards in a case. There should be no reason, especially from the big 2 that supposedly have multiple eyes, that those things ever happen. And I'll stand by that. I won't ever change my mind on that one bit. All right. Shenanigans. And there's no reason for there to be no grader's notes on anything but a 10. I agree 100%. Holy Harley, 100%. No reason at all. I don't care if you're trying to, maximize profit by cutting labor costs because it takes too much time to type up grader notes. I don't care. You give it a 9.8, tell me why. I might be okay with 9.9s and 10s, no notes. But if it's a 9.8, I want to know why. If it's a 9.6, I want to know why. I had an 8.0 come back with no grader's notes. True story. I had an 8.0 come back with no grader's notes. No reason that should ever happen. Especially if you are paying for grader's notes. Because what? What is it? The $25 membership fee now and you have access to the grader's notes? Okay, cool. Leave me some then for all my books. Or all the books that are on the market that I can look up via barcode and see why this book is selling at, that's selling for X amount on eBay, why it has an 8.5. Come on now. The upside down variant. Yeah. Let's talk about this issue with the signature series. Now, I was already vocal about how when wait times were going crazy, I did feel that CGC was focusing too much of their resources. And I still believe this to be true. I believe the CGC was focusing too much of their resources on in-house signings. All right. This is what I think was happening. CGC had a bunch of blue label submissions, standard submissions, sitting in their warehouse. And instead of having their employees go and grab those, they were saying, yo, guys, like our big money right now was with these signings. So those books can wait in the warehouse for a couple more weeks. We got to go do this signing. All hands on deck. All hands on deck. I believe that was happening 100%. Now, at the same time, what I believe was happening was CGC realized that, okay, we are basically prioritizing short-term profits. It might piss some people off, but people kept sending in books. They know that. But we do want to work to where we can get more revenue in, more money to spend on a new facility, which they built, hiring new employees, training new employees. And I just think it took like a year for them to get to a point to where they started able to catch up on the standard submissions and say, okay, now we have enough employees, we have enough resources, we have enough people, enough bodies to handle now a growing amount of these signature events and enough bodies to handle the incoming standard submissions to where they don't need to wait. What was it at one point? Was it over 200-day wait estimated turnaround time? It was crazy. So kudos to them for getting there, but I do believe they were doing that, and I don't think they should have ever done that. I think they should have balanced it out, but that's just me. Like I said, if they knew that people were going to keep sending them their money in their books, no matter how much they went on social media and complained and yelled at a screen, oh well, they knew they weren't going to lose money. And that's on you guys as consumers for not speaking with your purchasing power. All right? I'm going to say that every time. But what does this mean moving forward when we look at what the signature series is? So I refer back to Swaggle Swaggle did a video, and he said this extremely well. And I'm not going to say exactly what he said, but he was talking about CGC is becoming an entity that is creating collectibles rather than an entity that is servicing collectibles. They're not a collectible service anymore where they, are simply a grading service or a certification service. They are creating collectibles. And he even talked about creating the false scarcity, in a sense to where it's okay, we are going to, create this product because it is a product. It's, if you take a certain artist like Jim Lee or Todd McFarlane or, a certain actor like Chris Evans, and you have them sign, that there's going to be X amount of books produced. Or I know what they're doing is they're having people come, they could get their book signed right there, and then they set them off to get graded with a yellow label. They're allowing you to do that. So they're essentially creating a new product, that's this nice yellow labeled slab comic book, right? It differentiates itself from anything else on the market. Okay. And there's only a certain amount of them because the artist is only going to sign a certain amount or be there for a certain amount of time. This is the evolution of the grading industry. And one thing that Swag said in his video was they're smart. CGC is smart for doing this because he was saying there's only X amount of, Hulk 181s, Fantastic Four #1s, or AF-15s, or whatever key comics we're sending in. There's only a certain amount of them. What if in 50 years from now, 99% of them are graded in slab? Who's going to be submitting these big keys anymore if they're all graded? So, and I know there's always the new comics that are coming out, and there's always people that, like, some people make the face for, say, I don't know why you're sending in $5 modern books or books that aren't worth anything. Everyone wants to send in everything just to get that 9.8. But hey, that market's probably always going to be there for sure. But You got to understand the new or the supply of ungraded comics, especially the classic key comics going back from Golden Age to Copper Age. There's a finite supply. How do we reinvent ourselves to generate new revenue? And it's working. Are they a big, bad monster because of this? What do you guys think my answer is going to be? We talked about the mechanical issues policy. We talked about them raising prices. What was my answer to those two things? Are they big and bad? No. They're protecting themselves. They're simply doing business. You guys as consumers don't understand the power that you have. You guys have the power to speak with your dollars. So what am I going to say to this? No. They are not big, bad CGC at all. They are creating a market for themselves that's going to last and reinvent themselves and give them the longevity into the future. Now, while this, in another thing that Swag said, he did talk about how, they're kind of like pushing aside the way that we interact with artists, right? And they're almost kind of, in a sense, you could say, monopolizing the signature. How many of these artists are going to keep going to cons charging $20, $40 for a signature when you could go to a CGC signing and literally get paid thousands of dollars for like a 1 or 2 day event? This can really sideline certain elements of the hobby as we know it. And does that suck? Yes. But guess what, guys? Things change. I used to love listening to music on cassette tapes. I hate iTunes. I hate Spotify. I wish we could just listen to tapes. But my old self, it don't matter. The world changes. The world moves on and evolves. It looks different. Is that inherently a bad thing? No. It's just the way it is. That's just the way it is, right? I do hope that within this, because Swag was talking about Frank Miller, and maybe he's getting paid big by CGC, and then he does this cover for Marvel, this Wolverine cover. Oh my God. Oh my goodness. And it was bad. It was bad. I think he was hitting up Rob Liefeld saying, "Yo, Rob, I know you've been getting a lot of publicity on, that big chest cap you did, but I'm gonna one up you. I'm gonna one up you, Rob. You youngin'. I'm an OG. Hold my beer." And this cover, now look, guys, art is subjective and all that, but as an artist myself, you know what I think happened? Swag was saying, maybe they don't care about this. Maybe they want to go to where the money is. And that's one evaluation of the situation. I do think, though, one thing, we know he's getting old, but that piece was obviously done on some type of tablet with a stylus. And it was done in some type of Photoshop program, you could tell. And quite honestly, more than anything, I think it's an OG artist that's used to actually doing pencil and pen, using a stylus in a computer program. And whether it's he just doesn't want to take his time doing, using that method, or he's just not used to it and he's trying something new because he's old and maybe it's easier for him. I don't know. But I saw some current sketches that he did, and they looked way better. They looked a lot more like his old stuff than this did on a stylus Microsoft Surface Pro / Photoshop type of program. The Shadow Rat makes a good observation here too. There's downside to the Signature Series, but not everyone is able to go to cons to get signatures. So there you go. It opens doors, in different ways for other individuals. The newer cars don't even come with CD players anymore. I know, man. I miss having 100 CDs, just laying around, man. I miss it. I still got my truck that has a tape deck in it though, so I still rock with my old cassettes that I've had forever. That cover is trash. Rob blocked me. Yeah, I got comments I can say about Rob, but I don't know him personally. I wish him the best. It's all good. Yeah, I've heard that Frank might not be doing good. I know. I don't know, but again, when you compare the pencil sketches to what he did in that cover, you could tell. I definitely think there is some fact of the matter being, at least partial fact that it had something to do with the method of how he was drawing, the tools that he was using. But look, so again, we look at CGC and how they're changing, and we even saw them, they're partnering with whatnot. We've seen that happen. We even did the thing. I did a live stream talking about, what was it? Big Time Collectibles. Shout out to, Big Time Collectibles, not, throwing dirt on their name. I had a great discussion. I forget the owner. I forget what his name was, but we had a great discussion on my channel. And remember, they were doing this kind of like partnership where CGC, it was like exclude a CGC, even CGC worded this on their website. We are happy to partner with Big Time Collectibles for a CGC exclusive slab. And like that right there is like, that's like conflict of interest. And I'm not going to go get into too much of that right now, but we see CGC trying to reinvent themselves, putting their hands in the pots in different ways to find more ways to be relevant and generate new streams of revenue. And that's okay. Now, I also see a silver lining here within the grading company. And if Tony is still here, I hope you're listening to this, Tony. I would love to hear your thoughts on this too. Brandon, what's going on? CGC, we go back to me saying that 23 years into the grading industry, it's still in its infancy. And right before COVID, over those last couple of years, we finally started like, look, I don't think there was any grading company out there pre-2016 that had a good looking slab all around. CGC started to get there. I don't know when did they go to the actual white sticker before they changed from that old horrible design. And I do believe it was 2016 where they updated it again. The font looked more clean. The backsplash and the gradient was a lot smoother and cleaner. So I think a lot of things started to evolve just a few years before COVID. CBCS started to really try to get their aesthetics down. They, made a lot of changes over just I think it was between like 2018 to 2021. CBCS made a lot of changes to their cases and to their aesthetics and to their label designs. So, and then COVID hit, and we see the bulk of these companies and how they're ran, from their customer service, from their supply chain management, from their logistics, evolve in a way that we had never seen before. And now that we're coming out of the COVID market, we've evolved from that in many ways. Supply and demand is a bit different. How we're collecting is a bit different. How we're moving into the future has evolved. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that within the grading industry at a heightened level over the next 5 years. So what does that mean for CGC to be thinking outside of the box and turning into a company that's making collectibles rather than just servicing collectibles? It takes away from this idea that CGC is a monopoly. 100%. Now, I'm sure a lot of you watching right now are just going to come back at me and say, well, Chris, you can say that all you want. You could say that all you want. But the majority of people getting books graded only care about one thing, and that's what they can sell them for on the secondary market. And unfortunately, CGC is still that. Okay. I'm here to tell you guys. I'm here to tell you. In the next 5 years, I believe that if CBCS continues to hold best practices at the forefront, listens to their customer base. CBCS, let me see if I got it right here. CBCS actually just released a statement this last week stating, where are we excelling and where can we do better? Dear collector, at CBCS, we strive to continually improve our services and provide the best possible experience for our valued customer. We recently made major updates to our grading and pressing turnaround times and streaming our service levels, and we don't want to stop there. There's always room for improvement. This CBCS team wants to hear more from you. Now, this can be a PR pitch. Maybe they ain't listening to nobody, but at least they're putting that out there. I believe that when we look at slabs on the secondary market, I believe in the next 5 years, CBCS, again, don't come back in 5 years, and if they're not, come back and say, Chris, you were wrong. They have to stay the course, and there's a way for them to do that, and I think they are very capable. I think CBCS books are going to fare within a 5% margin of value to CGC. There are already cases, isolated cases, where we see CBCS graded books selling for higher than their CGC counterpart. Now, don't get me wrong. If we went and did an analysis of this and went and collected data, I'm sure the majority of times for the same book and the same grade, we are going to see CGC getting that, I don't know, anywhere from 10 to 20% premium, but it's not always the case, and that is a fact. I think CBCS is going to continue to close in on that gap. And as CBCS does that, and as we see more and more collectors being open to getting their books slabbed, we are seeing more and more collectors wanting to slab their books other than just for that resale value. And that's where EGS comes in. We saw it happening with PGX until they shot themselves in their foot. And like I said, I never want to count any business out. I really don't believe in my heart that PGX will ever recover. And I'm not saying that I don't want them to. The more competition, the better. I just don't think it'll ever happen. Whereas EGS just a year ago was on one end the laughing stock from a lot of diehard, graded comic collectors, simply because they didn't have a proprietary case. Now they do. And this case, and I've said this before, their Generation 1 case is better than CGC's Generation 4 or 5 case. It's better than and labels. It's better than CBCS's second or third generation cases and labels. And they're on par with the current two. You can pick and choose certain things that are maybe better here or better there. That's big moves, and I believe that EGS is around to stay. EGS has a lot of improving to do. There's a lot of things that they need to continue to focus on to evolve and improve with. And EGS doesn't need to give CBCS or CGC a run for their money. They don't. They just need to continue to do what they do. And they can continue to slowly gain more of the market share out there. So while CGC is creating collectibles now, it leaves a different perception for how we see graded comics. I think it's going to send more people to CBCS to look for that graded service. I think it can send people to EGS to look for that graded service, but it's also opening the door to what? And they already started this with their custom labels. Now, I know they have a lot more flexibility using the characters that they use. You know, you might not look at it as apples to apples when it comes to EGS's custom labels, but even EGS is, in a sense, creating their own collectible. I mean, all graded companies, in a sense, by slabbing it, can be seen as creating their own collectible, because if, again, somebody else was like, contextualize it, if the collectible spending money cares about not just the service of a book being graded and certified, but the actual aesthetics of the product. Like me, I care about the grade. I care about the validity of the grade and the service that I'm getting. I want to trust the certification process of that grade, but I also care about the aesthetics. I do. I care about the aesthetics because the aesthetics create a new product for me and for my book. Obviously, the idea that Swag was talking about in his video with this whole signature series stuff and creating, you know, a whole new market of new goods that have their own idea of false scarcity, that's on a whole other level. But you see what I'm saying? It's evolution. It's evolution, and we're looking at these companies in a completely different light than we have even just a few years ago. And again, I think that's a good thing. We got to focus on the good. So I'm going to read some comments in a minute here, but the way I'm going to sum all of this up is, instead of trying to focus on the negative, and again, I'm not saying that we can't talk about it in a productive manner. Don't ever, I am not, believe me, I am not one. I can't stand people. I can't stand people who sit here and say, why are you being negative? Because you want to talk about the negative that goes on in the world, or what we might, maybe it's not negative, but maybe we just have concerns. It's talking about the negative is only negative if we do it in a way that is counterproductive. Like Tupac said, if I keep talking about how dirty it is out there, somebody might have to go clean it up. So it's in how we deliver our concerns and our constructive feedback when it comes to anything comic books and anything with these companies. If graded comic books simply aren't for you in any shape, form, or fashion, just say it. They're not for me, and move on. Because if you sit here and spend so much energy saying they're not for you, but then you want to sit and talk about how they're doing this and ruining that, then that's a whole other problem. And you're not doing anything but creating toxic energy, and you're not solving anything, because graded comic books aren't going away. While we can talk about the negative and talk about the constructive criticism in a productive manner, I still want us to focus on the positives. Don't see these things and just get, don't get, pushed down and knocked down and feel like this is all bad. Think outside the box. How can I look at these changes, or the evolution of this, or the implementation of that, and how can I work around that to benefit me? One way, speaking with your dollars. Well, I understand that CGC is raising their prices and, having quality control issues. And instead of just complaining about it, I'm going to speak with my money and go somewhere else. I think CGC is spending more time with making collectibles rather than servicing collectibles. I'm going to go with CBCS or EGS and dip my toes elsewhere to see if I like how the water feels. And it's as simple as that. We open up doors by being autonomous individuals that sit with our decision making before we make them. And as long as we, as consumers, can sit back, process, and continue to consume in a way that fulfills our desires, wants, and needs, if anything related to comic book is a need, companies are going to continue to have to evolve in a way that speaks to the consumer. A company can only evolve in a way that goes against the consumer is if we as consumers allow it. And that's just business. I'm going to get to some comments here. I know we had a lot of good stuff. Let's see. We have Indie Key Comics. CGC is trying to corner the market on pressing and cleaning. Well, I mean, what do you mean by corner the market? Because, again, it seems like a derogatory term. I think a lot of people feel like, well, it's like a one-stop shop. I don't need to send my books to somebody else, get them pressed and clean, have them sent back to me, or worry about them sending them to CGC. I could send them and have them do everything. So if that's cornering it, then hey, and it's working for them, good for them. It's just business, right? It's not bad. It's not unethical. But I'll tell you what, guys, I will never send my books to CGC to get pressed and cleaned, ever. And by the way, if you are looking for a reputable, top-tier company that can press your books for you for like some of the cheapest prices out there, check out the link below for Pop Culture Zone. I'm telling you, I'm not just saying that. I tell you guys, I don't push anybody just to push them. I believe in them. Good people, and they do amazing work. I got like 20 books back from them some months back, and I was blown away. Blown away. All right. Tony! I hope CBCS does close the gap because then EGS will be next in line. Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think, and Tony, I don't want to speak for you, but, again, it's like Burger King doesn't have to be McDonald's. Habit Burger doesn't need to be In-N-Out. They coexist. And sure, one of them, McDonald's, might bring in more revenue than the other every year. It doesn't mean that a company like EGS can't continue to grow and expand and continue to be more and more successful, right? Obi-Wan, let's give EGS a chance. They have to be better than the other 3 letter companies. What about the 4-letter company, CBCS? Let's not leave them out. Indie Key. For now on, if you send comic books that have been pressed and clean, they're going to come back with a purple label claiming it was done amateurly. Oh, okay. Now, Indie Key, I don't know. I can't sit and say that this is entirely true, but I did hear there was a YouTuber that I guess cleaned their books and they came back with the purple label. Indie Key, if this is what you're alluding to, let me know in the comments. And I don't know who that YouTuber is, and I haven't seen that video, but I'm wondering if this individual used some type of chemical that left a residue that allowed CGC to know and to find out that this was done. Because I'm going to tell you right now, there is absolutely no way that CGC can know for sure if a comic book has been pressed. Simply pressed. There's no way. There's absolutely no way. So that's why I can't sit here and buy into this statement completely, because there is no way that CGC can send a book back to you with a purple label saying this comic book was in a heat press and therefore we see it as restoration. There's no way they can do that. And if they try to do that, best believe I myself might get involved with a couple pro bono lawyers, and we would have a class action lawsuit. I can be extremely confident. Now, would I have the money to put up to even go after them in a court of law? No. But do I have the confidence that we would win? Absolutely. There's no way. So I would love more information on that if you have it. L Green. I think PGX are just happy where they're at. I mean, I don't know if there's a little like sarcasm in there. I don't think they're happy with where they're at. I think they regret what they did every day, but I bet they could be happy that they probably still have business if they do. All right, let's see what Indy continues to say here. You don't have to send your books to a company to get encapsulated and slabbed. There's plenty of alternatives to encapsulation and slabbing. In a sense, there is, and one of them is the I know that BCW has their, should I forget what they're called? I have a couple of books in their little plastic casing, and they're nice. And then you have oh my gosh, I am completely, man, these are my folks. Oh my goodness, I can't, guys. This is part of me being away from the hobby and the channel for those 4 months. Oh my goodness, wow. Oh my gosh, Dan over it. Gosh, they have the most amazing frames, guys. They're a little pricey, but they're amazing. I have a book in one right back there, that Spawn book, right there, the Chadwick Boseman tribute. I am blanking on their name right now, and I feel horrible. I've done promos for them. I love their product. They have the wood grain backings, stained or no stain, the different color frames. Oh my gosh, guys, help me out here. I'm beating myself up on this one right now. CBCS labels and cases are trash. I would have agreed with you up until their most recent. I actually think their cases are better than CGC's outside of one thing: the edges not being smooth and rounded. Their labels, I kind of like, if they centered their font and didn't do it in this weird like 3/4 positioning, so that's stupid. If they centered their font and had a white background on the grade number, I would say that the labels are better too. But overall, I would still put CGC labels above CBCS. Holy Harlot says, with proper grader's notes, it wouldn't matter so much who the grading company was. Well, Holy Harlot, I mean, like, I don't know if I want to disagree with you, or maybe I'm taking what you're saying wrong. If every company gave proper grader notes, I think it would allow us as consumers to put faith in what grading company that we trusted. Does that make sense? So I think it actually would matter, but we would be able to make that decision for ourselves. Oh shoot, man, I know why this book came back like this with CBCS. I know why this book came back in this grade with CGC, and I know why this book came back in this grade with EGS. Man, I want to stick with this company because at least I know now. If that makes sense. CGC is about to cause scarcity in the comic book market because they're going to tell you that cleaning and pressing. Okay, so I already kind of went over that. Again, Indy, you're making a lot of like real blunt, like pinpointed statements. I think you're going a little overboard with it. Like, again, let's try to bring up the facts and see where there might be some truth in this. 321 Comics. The point of grading is not that it is encapsulated and slabbed. It's more getting a professional grade that is universally accepted. Exactly. And that's what it started as, So, but again, some people do like the aesthetics of it. So I forget who said, there are other options that aren't grading companies, right? Crafty Comics. Got it. Just came to me. Crafty Comics cases, guys. I think I might have their link in the description below even. I can't believe I blanked on that. But I love what they're doing, man. Crafty Comics, they're awesome. Well worth the price. Holy Harlot, he dry cleaned it. I mean, again, here, Swag says, I think you used a technique that CGC actually does have rules against. There were two camps on this. So yeah, I would love to know more about that story. And again, to Indie Key, again, I'm not, I appreciate your enthusiasm, and I know it's crazy. We get into our emotions sometimes, and it's like, oh man, what are they doing? But I think Swag is probably onto something here, to where this isn't something new. I really do think it was a process that has been around that they were able to catch, to where they would call it restoration. Because even if, let me say this, even if they could tell that there was moisture added, they're not going to necessarily say, oh, well, moisture was added to this book to press and clean it. No, they're going to say there's moisture damage, and they're not going to give you a purple label. They're going to knock the grade down, right? That's like if you were using distilled water. If you were using like spring water to use in a steamer or a steam bath, and it allowed water, clear, visible moisture damage on the book, they're not going to give you a purple label saying, boy, you sure are an amateur presser and cleaner. They're going to be like, there's water damage on this book. I thought it was a 9.4, but because of that, I'm going to give you a 6.5. So I think that's more accurate to say there. Oh, no, comic skins. But comic skins are another one that you can use on your own, Shadow Rat. Holy, improve collecting comics. Is that the okay, I'm gonna check them out. How could they make an assessment on cleaning when they are supposed to be evaluating damage? I'm not sure what you mean by this in Holy Harley, but I think it goes back to what Swag was saying. I think you got to understand that most cleaning and pressing cannot be validated. It cannot be confirmed. There is no, it would all be assumption based. You and I can look at a book and say, I think this book was put in a press. Do we know for sure? No. Maybe somebody just had it sitting under, a heavy box and for 20 years, or maybe it's just perfectly in that condition. Who knows? Maybe you can look at a book and there's white and you think that maybe somebody took an eraser to part of the white parts on the cover of a book. Can they sit and say, oh, somebody tried to erase it, that's restoration? No. It could have been a kid collecting a book that was like writing on the book and took an eraser to it and started erasing the book. That's not restoration. And there's no way that a certifying company is going to state it as such, because they're liable. There's no way that they can validate that by any fact of the matter. What they can do, though, is look at a technique that they feel not devalued, but diminished the grade or the quality of that book to then assign it a lower grade. So if somebody uses an eraser and they like take off some of the color, that could be now seen as a defect. You may have got the dirt off, but you took off some of the red too, and now it looks pink. That's a defect. It's going to lower the grade. You try to use a steam, but you now there's water damage. It's going to lower the grade. So the thing that happened with this individual, I think, is it had to be something that involved the chemical, something that they noticed, and they said, this is the same thing as trying to put color touch on a book. Therefore, it is restoration. So again, I stand by what I'm saying, even though I don't know the whole details of that situation. There is no way that CGC or CBCS or EGS, and I mean, if Tony's still here, Tony is a president of a grading company. I mean, I'm sure you could speak to this in terms of how you solidify restoration, and if any type of simple pressing and cleaning in terms of what I've discussed can ever fall under the category of restoration. I will say, you know what, Holy Harlot, I did hear about this, that they put that on the book. I think that's wrong. Like, I do think that's something that needs to be looked into and reassessed. Like, you can't just put cleaning on the book. I don't think, like, there has to be a specific there has to be more specifics, in my humble opinion. Maybe those specifics are in the grader's notes. I don't know. But I would think even with the on the label, maybe it could state, like, maybe it could be more than one word. I don't know. But you got to keep in mind too that the labels have limited space. They're not going to put this individual used this to try to clean the book, therefore it's a purple label. You're not going to throw that on the label. Hopefully it's in the grader notes, but simply putting cleaning, I get it. Maybe there could be a little more context added, since they like to, put cameo in full, and that's the whole argument. I don't know. Sky, what's going on, Sky? Thanks for hanging out. Qualified grade is more for incomplete. So again, if they feel that somebody added or took away to the book in an attempt to restore its original condition, that's a purple label. All right. So, like, if you had a book that was missing the centerfold, it would get a green qualified label. If you have a book that was originally missing a centerfold and you married a centerfold, it would get a purple label for restoration. Now, again, looking at the restoration qualifications, adding something or taking away. Taking away would be like trimming the book. That's taking away. You're not adding, you're taking away, but it's restoration. Adding in this case, in a cleaning, again, I'm saying, I mean, like, are they adding some type of chemical in their cleaning process? I don't know. I don't know. All right, let's see what Tony has to say right here. Pressing and cleaning is not restoration, but bad cleaning will lower the grade sometimes. And that goes almost exactly what I was saying. Tony, can you also speak? Do you know, is there any chemical that you're aware of out there that could be used in an attempt to clean a book that might come back as restoration? I would love to hear your thoughts on answering that question. Yeah, Holy Harlot, I will say I'm going to watch the video here. Actually, I'm going to go, what's the guy's name again? Improve Collecting Comics. I'm going to actually search it. Improve Collecting Comics. All right, let's see. Improve Collecting Comics. All right. Nice little channel with, oh, there he is. I think he said his name was, yep. With about a little over 3,000 subscribers. I'm going to give him a subscribe to Improve Collecting Comics. Always want to support other channels. There we go. So I'm going to check that out later on tonight for sure. I was so new with this, I wasn't there. This topic goes deep, not to go full tin foil hat, but I've noticed a lot of books now being cracked out and sold raw with very white covers. Ooh. Swag, what are you thinking this could be? Are you thinking that books are coming back restored and they're cracking them and trying to sell them raw. To basically, I mean, quite honestly, especially in the market right now, if you have a high grade, high grade, maybe 8.5, 9.0, I'm saying 8.0, 9.0, maybe it's a nice silver H key, bronze H key, and you have that's nice high grade. And you send it in, you do a press it clean, whatever, and it comes back restored for whatever reasons. And it has that purple label. I wouldn't be surprised if you could sell that book raw in high grade. Sell it for more money than you could get trying to keep it in that purple label slab. Comic Journey, what's going on, man? There's a lot. There's a lot. If restored floss, there's a lot. Okay, there's a lot of restored floss floating around. I've seen quite a few. There is a lot of. Okay, sorry, Comic Journey. I'm trying to understand the two words there to bring that in full, but it seems that there is a influx of restored comics. Yeah, I know there was another. Quite honestly, I'm wondering if it's this Improved Comics, because I remember recently I actually went and watched. I don't know if it came up on my suggestion feed, but somebody was using a bleaching process. Somebody was using some type of bleaching process to whiten the covers and the inner pages of their books. And I'm wondering if it might have been this individual, Improved Comics. I don't know. And again, I'm not trying to accuse him of doing anything wrong. And I wonder if that's what's going on, if that's what CGC caught. So, peroxide. Vinny. Oh, yeah, that too. Thank you, Combo Book Chris, and thanks for hanging out tonight. Absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up. If a book is signed, you can receive a qualified green label. Sometimes you will still get a blue label, but it'll be dinged for having scribbling on it, right? Sometimes that can happen. More often than not, though, you'll probably get that green label for sure. A lot of people using peroxide and Ozium, if that's the proper term. Okay, Indie Key. Sorry it took so long to respond. I was out smoking. What you smoking, man? You smoking that Cali Green or a cigarette? Yes, I'm talking about that YouTube video. Yes, I'm talking about that same YouTube. Okay, so I don't know if you heard me, but like I said, I think we need to keep things in perspective because you just can't quantify simple pressing and cleaning a book in terms of a heat press or taking an eraser or using a magic eraser or using a cotton swab or a cotton ball, or the putty. I forget the name of the putty. Gosh darn. Guys, told you I've been out of it. And cleaning a book. And none of that will ever be able to be quantified for a grading company to call it restoration. 321, let's be honest, CGC moved the hobby forward and brought some legitimacy to it. But moving forward, there should be a way to regulate the industry of grading to be a specific standard. I agree. Okay, I agree wholeheartedly, 100% with everything you just said in the statement. 321. And I think if we continue to be honest with ourselves as collectors and continue to speak with our purchasing power in a responsible way, this is going to continue to happen. I do. I've been a proponent for more transparency in the grading process. And while I do think it's a far reach to have some type of, oversight committee where every grading company is abiding by the same rules, I think each of them need to be transparent. If you're going to have your own grading standards, you need to be 100% transparent with that. And look, over the last couple of years, CGC has alluded to more information. They've given us a little more transparency, but they've still only scratched the surface. Now, for one thing that you guys don't know, a year ago, I put together a video. I did an audio recording, kind of like if you think about a documentary and you have the narrator. I narrated I believe it was about a 25-minute long video that was going to talk about the history of grading. I never got around to editing in the video portion of it due to life. All right. I do hope to release it one day. I hope it's not like obsolete by the time I do. But the one big thing that I think a lot of people don't know about was Overstreet. Basically, if it wasn't for Robert Overstreet, not only would there not be a grading system, but there probably would never have been CGC. And it's funny that so many people that are anti-CGC or have issues with CGC have been pro components of the Overstreet Guide. But what you might not know is that Robert Overstreet, going as far back as the early 80s, was almost at a time in a crowd by himself advocating for third-party grading companies. Robert Overstreet advocated for third-party grading companies. Robert Overstreet also evolved the 10-point grading scale. And it's really what? It's really a 25-point because, 0 to 10, but, 0.5, 1, 1.8, 2.0, 9.8, 10, all of it. It's like 25 actual grading points. Because if they went to the comic book industry went to a 100-point grading company at one point. And it was Robert Overstreet that took the lead in saying, we need to come back down. And that's another thing. A lot of people say, I remember when it was just poor, good, fair, good, fine, near mint. But you don't remember that there was a 100-point grading scale. And Robert Overstreet advocated to take it down to that 10-point scale. And it took a while, but it wasn't until the late 90s that your co-founders of CGC started to sit down at the table and put something together. And in 2000, they officially launched the first ever certified third-party grading company. So again, 321, absolutely. I think they brought new life, new energy, and new money into this hobby. But because of where we're at right now, things need to continue to evolve in the right direction. And the right direction is holding companies accountable in a productive way, holding ourselves accountable as consumers, and then watching those things work their magic. All right, Tony was asking my questions about if there's any chemicals or any type of cleaning that he would see that would possibly lead to a purple restore label. He says no. The whole purpose of cleaning is to get rid of dirt and stains. Sometimes if you dry clean with an eraser too hard, you will take the color of the book or create color rub, and then again, the grade will go down. Absolutely. This is a very interesting comment here. CGC says parchment paper used for pressing leaves a wax residue behind, and the chemical used to whiten covers and pages deteriorates the paper. Okay. That's interesting, but is that an argument for restoration, or are you saying that they can notice deterioration, which would then hinder the grade and lower the grade? I'm wondering. Yeah, I don't use regular parchment paper. I mean, it's similar to parchment paper, but parchment paper, yeah, usually does have that wax. I forget. It's been a long time since I ordered them, and again, I have brain fog, guys. So I think it's, what is it? PVC. I forget. It's not PVC. That's piping, right? All right. Indy says they also say techniques like cleaning the dirt off of the cover with an eraser scrapes away the gloss of the paper and makes it abrasive. Okay, so again, Indy, I asked you, are you using this as evidence to validate them giving purple labels, or are they simply stating that these can hinder the grade? These can negatively impact the grade. Again, these last two things that you stated to me would be indications of them looking for defects rather than saying, oh, we're throwing you a purple label because you're trying to restore your book by pressing and cleaning. People use parchment paper in between comic book pages when pressing comic books. CGC says it leaves a wax residue behind on the pages and the front and back cover. As somebody who has been pressing comics for over 4 years now, I highly recommend never using parchment paper in between the comic book. I used heavyweight art paper. You want to use at least like a 50-pound heavyweight paper. All right. And a cardboard backing in between for the staples. And you put a heavyweight page between the front cover in the new stock and the back cover in the new stock. If you want to use a parchment-like paper that does not have wax on top of the book, that's what I would recommend doing. But you can also use the Teflon sheets on top of the book too. For me, I use the parchment-like paper, non-wax, on top of my book, and then I put the oh my God, I just said it. See, I'm brain farting. I put the Teflon paper on top of that, and then I close the press. And I also use my metal plates to, of course, disperse the heat more equally and through the top and the bottom of the book. Yeah, and that was what Holy Harlot was just saying. Cardstock paper. Not even cardstock. It doesn't have to be cardstock because cardstock is very heavy, but cardstock will work too. The only thing that I would recommend, guys, if you are using cardstock and you are using a backing board for the centerfold, you might want to use cardstock for the centerfold as well, because that backing board is a little thicker still than the cardstock. Well, at least the standard cardstock, because cardstock ranges in thickness as well. You don't want to add too much within the book to where if you put pressure down on the book, you're gonna leave an indentation along the spine. Let me show you guys. Like I'm reading, finally catching up on my dark web, trying to catch up on my Spider-Man. So like I'm going to show you guys, if you leave cardstock or a backing board in the centerfold and in between the front cover and the back cover, obviously the cardboard has to sit. Shoot, where are we? The cardboard has to sit as close as it can to the spine, but there's still going to be a little bit of gap. And if you have so much pressure in it, you have now 3 pieces of paper or cardstock or backing boards that are like a millimeter away from the actual middle of the spine. And if you put enough pressure on that, it's going to leave a line along parallel to the spine, because those inner pieces that you're putting in are now too thick. So you got to be mindful of that as well. All I do is sell graded books. I'm 100% with CGC, as they are Godzilla right now for the money in terms of return. I have no allegiance. I'm a capitalist and go where the market dictates. So, comic book Chris, let me ask you this. Comic book Chris, let me ask you this. No, I'm not going to start rapping. If you knew that CBCS had roughly a differential of 5% on the market, and knew that once in a while, depending on the book, depending on the situation, CBCS books might even go for more. Would you switch over to CBCS? I would love to hear your thoughts on that. Third-party graders are absolutely necessary for viable and insurable appraisals. Comic Journey, I would agree with you. But that only works is if we can trust the grade. Now, who remembers the video I did discussing I got back this 9.8 from CGC and I'm pissed because that book had what, 5 color break spine ticks, 1 blended corner, and it was not a 9.8. So I agree with you. That's one big reason of why they're there. But if there's so much inconsistency in the process of coming to that grade is not transparent, your statement right here becomes null and void, right? So that's why we need more trust in these companies and more consistency for sure. Silicone release paper to press, not parchment. There you go, Shadow Rat. Thank you. Yes, and that Teflon. Yep. Yeah, that's a good question too. How much testing do you think they do for your $25? Sky says collectors are investing in the future and grading provides higher values. But Sky, again, this is all subjective, right? Correlated to other factors such as what Comic Journey just said. Sky, yes, collectors are investing into the future and grading provides higher values because third-party graders are absolutely necessary for viable and insurable appraisals because we trust that grade. But again, it's like a domino effect. If we can't trust the grade, then both of these things go out the window. And then we're only paying a higher value simply because we are following the flock instead of thinking for ourselves. FOMO much? Right? Yeah. And again, this is where it might come back is restoration. And quite honestly, if you could find the chemicals in there, I don't know if I'm going to argue against that is restoration. Comic Journey, I like that third-party grading companies are there to mediate disputes over condition by sellers and buyers. When there's an unbiased third party involved, it takes away the gray area. Again, yep, I would agree with you if we could trust the grade. So how much faith are we putting in the consistency and the viability of the grade itself from any of these companies? Comic book Chris, I pressed well over 1,000 books. I use peroxide, 50/50 was distilled water. Never had a restore or conserve label. Okay, good to hear, Chris. Thank you for sharing that. So peroxide, yeah, always use distilled water. I hope everyone knows that. If you're ever doing any type of steam or moisture, always use distilled water. You don't want any type of staining or residue damage to the book. Hey, IndyKey, I would like to know where CGC is saying this stuff too. Is this in grader notes or is this a public statement that they made? But again, even to this, that to me reflects lower grade, not restoration. My statement is not null because the insurance companies don't give a rat's ass what we trust, just proof of condition, which then equates to insurable value. Oh, were you simply talking about insurance value, Comic Journey? Oh, okay. Got insurable appraisals. I'm sorry, Comic Journey. You're right. In that case, you're right. I'm sorry. I thought you meant insured, like giving us assurance, like on a heritage auction or something. I apologize. I My statement still stands if you were saying it in that context. Like, I know that we look to these graded books to be reassured, or to give assurance, right, that this is a solidified certified grade. Therefore, if I'm paying big money to these companies, like when I see them at heritage auction, et cetera, I can have confidence. Well, can we? Because there's inconsistency. I get what you're saying. You're right. If whatever grade they give you for insurance purposes, they look at that grade and the value on the market rather than looking at a raw book. Thank you so much for clarifying that. You're absolutely right. And yeah, that's regardless if we think that we can trust the consistency of the grade, or the uh, viability of the grade or not. Yes, thank you for clarifying that. All right. Okay. So again, so you're saying that there are guidelines. Everything you said it is a guideline. And if so, again, it seems like guidelines for damages, not restoration, correct? I'm just trying to make sure we're on the same page. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Common Journey, for clarifying that. So, man. So I'll tell you guys, I really appreciated the feedback today. You guys added a lot to this conversation. I'm still gonna stand by my thoughts on this, guys. Like, I understand it's easy to look, there's a lot of issues with capitalism. All right. There's a lot of unethical activity and people in greed. But look, I always say this, any ism can be corrupted. Any ism. When you look at politics and like countries and political systems, and you look at capitalism, communism, socialism, Marxism, whatever ism, any ism can be corrupted. You know, but and while I am always one that wants to stand up for what's right, believe me, and if you guys know me, you know this. Like, that's what gets me in trouble sometimes. I speak my mind and I have a big heart. But we have to steer away from being so anti and one-sided with things. I mean, really, when I stepped away from this community, not by choice, but because, well, I didn't have a choice because of everything I was going through. I didn't really want to come back. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I didn't want to come back. I didn't want to come back because I know that there's so much toxicity in comic books. It's a reflection of the world right now. A big shout out to Reggie, where Reggie collects, for addressing an issue and doing it in a way that just took the words out of my mouth. And he said it so eloquently about, all this toxic nonsense is just that nonsense. And there's no need for it in this hobby. But then I realized that, even with that, there's so much good. And that's how we got to look at the world. We can't be hyper focused on the negative. Right? So when it comes to everything that we care about in the hobby, there is a way for us to care. There is a way for us to stand up for what we believe in. There is a way for us to have a voice. There is a way for us to hold people and entities and companies accountable. And I will always be the first to speak up and do that myself. And I encourage you all. But the moral of the story is, how do we do it in a productive way? And I don't think the CGC is big and bad. I question a lot of their decision making. Money is involved, and just because money is involved doesn't make them evil. This idea that somebody's out to make money makes it. I saw, I'm going to bring this up real quick. I saw a post in one of the Facebook groups again. Hey guys, I'm getting into collecting and I noticed there's a lot of good stuff on YouTube. I saw this guy, Comic Tom. He seems to do a lot of good stuff. I kind of like him. I like what he's doing. Can you recommend any other YouTubers? Shout out to the folks that drop my name in there, that drop Swaggle name in there, Bueller's name, Reggie's name. A lot of good people in this community. Como. But then all the hate for Comic Tom. And don't get me wrong. You don't have to like somebody. You don't have to like me. You don't have to like Tom. You don't have to like anybody. But here comes the Comic Tom is a scam artist. He's in cahoots with CGC and whatnot. And he's a shill and that pushes books to that he sits on so he can make money off of people. And I said, okay, look, all right. I'm not going to even have an opinion on what you're saying. I'm not going to say I agree or disagree. Where's your facts? Present your case like you were in a court of law. Show me the facts to where all these allegations that you made against this individual can be proven true or can give you the benefit of a doubt without reasonable doubt. He had nothing. And he brought up, oh, well, haven't you seen the C2E2? Yeah, that's almost a year old now. And, once again, Tom wasn't even there and had nothing to do with it. So the fact that he still gets lumped into that is just laughable. You want to sit and say, I watched that guy so-and-so on YouTube and like, I can't, I don't like his personality. It is what it is. Fair game. You don't have to like somebody. But we go straight to this narrative of creating falsehoods and attacking and making these accusations. We do it anytime a YouTuber does something we don't like. We do it anytime anybody gets a little bit of success because I've been at the opposite end of that. We do it to CGC. We do it to whatnot. And again, I'm not sitting here. I will be the first, if I have an issue with the YouTuber, I'll be the first to say, I disagree with you. I think you're wrong. I've done it to every YouTuber that I brought up today. Even Swag. I love Swag, man. That, if I feel like I built a friendship with Swag over the last few years. And I truly believe he is a genuine guy and I love what he does. As a content creator and as somebody who has a busy life, I don't watch much YouTube. But I watch Swag because I am actually a fan. But I'll go in the comments and I'll say, hey, playing devil's advocate here, We can stand up for what we believe in without having this black or white, divisive, one-sided perspective where it's bad or good, black and white, because it's never like that. It is never that simple. And if we act like this, it actually more often than not will have the opposite effect of what we are intending to do. That's why they call it being counterproductive. Even if we don't like what CGC is doing, crying about it solves nothing and it's counterproductive. You have more power by standing up to CGC in a productive way, giving them the understanding their position, and then giving them an opportunity to change. And I've already said it multiple times tonight, and I'll say it one more time. How do we do that? By having actual intellectual conversations, presenting facts and data and evidence rather than going on fallacious rants of anger and hate, and by speaking, by being smart, consumers, and speaking with our purchasing power and our dollars. And as more and more of us do those things, the more that we will be able to not only hold these entities and companies accountable, not only will we progress the hobby in terms of the business and the industry moving forward in a good way, but boy, will we all be able to coexist in a much healthier environment where we can argue and disagree and have different perspectives and it be in all love afterwards. Will we shake each other's hands and still got nothing but love because it's fun and we can challenge each other and find the fun in it instead of it being so freaking nasty all the time. So that's what I challenge you all to do moving forward. And yeah. I love this, Swag. I appreciate you, man. Even I don't agree with myself sometimes. And this is what I love to, I think Swag does it. I think I try to do it as well. I often don't like to like I will stand firm if I believe in something, but I also like to see both sides, like Chanel. That's a song, it's funny. I like to keep the door open for interpretation because if, I can see things, well, I might believe it. I might look at it like this if it's from this angle, but if it's from this angle, so if I don't have all the facts of something, I like to play devil's advocate. I like to look at it from both sides. And I don't know if I'm going to feel this way or that way about it if I get more information on it. It's contextual. Right? So, yeah. But guys, I want to say, man, it great. Like, and one thing too, when you step aside from YouTube, it's all about algorithms. And I said that's why Whatnot, and I'm going to do a live stream on it. Whatnot screwed me with the algorithms, man. Like I would have anywhere from, 25 to 55 people on average in my Whatnot sales. And I was making a decent amount of money. And the last couple of shows I did after my hiatus, I'd be lucky if I have 5-6 people in my show. I can't even sell, books that are easily selling for $10 for a minimum start bid of $2. I was losing so much money. I made $120 and like $130 the next show. I lost money. And the second show, I had 3 people buy something. 3 people. And it's not to fault to anybody that was in the show. It's just because that's so much of this online stuff is based on algorithms. Same thing goes with my YouTube. I took a hiatus. My views are down. My impressions are down. Impressions means YouTube isn't throwing my stuff out. Even to my subscribers, they're not throwing it out as much. When I'm live, my count is down. I mean, I would do a silly show about nothing and have at least 40, 50 people in here. And I've had a solid, 20 people, 20-something people this whole time. And I'm not complaining about it. I'm not coming out here like being a victim. I'm not crying about this. I'm making a point. My point is this. I'm going to continue because I love what I do. I'm going to continue to work to earn that back. I'm going to earn that back no matter how hard it is. But outside of that, this is one of the funnest, most interactive shows that I had in a long time because the people here made it so. And I don't care if I had 40, 50, 100 people in my chat next to the 20-something that's been here consistently all night, because it's really about driving good content and having good discussion, because that's why I do lives. If I didn't feel like that, I would just make videos and talk to you guys on a one-way road, the whole time. But I don't want to do that. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you all for being here. Hopefully another Friday Night Live next week. If it's not Friday, I'm going to try to go live at some point in time. Follow me on Instagram. For more updates, of course, subscribe to me here if you aren't. Appreciate you all. Tony, guys, go check out EGS. Go check out that video from Swag that I was talking about. Comic Journey. No, Comic Journey, like I said, I'm slowly getting back into things. If people are asking me to, like, I was going through hell. I'm not even going to get into it. I'm slowly getting back into it. I need to kind of focus on my channel, but I really enjoy being a guest on other people's channel. It adds to more diverse discussions. So let's keep it, on the table, on the books. But I just need to feel, I'm trying to get comfortable just coming back here on my channel and doing these things. And it's a lot. Like I said, I don't want to get all emotional and get deep into my personal life, but I'm just happy to be here with you guys like this right now. So yeah, for sure. For sure. Obi-Wan Shinobi, appreciate you. So yeah. All right, I'm gonna head out, guys. If you guys Sunday night, Comic Book Cannon, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Hope to see you guys there. Otherwise, click the like button. Check out for some new videos dropping this week. Be kind to yourselves, be kind to each other. Appreciate you guys. And until next time.